on, everybody? Cam K with you here on a Monday towards the end of 2024. We've got a couple weeks left. Here on Facebook tonight, our YouTube is only working. Facebook is down, so it's causing some issues with the stream, unfortunately. And we are all excited because we had a big show planned tonight, and we tend to have a good amount of listeners on Facebook. What I'm going to try and do is at least get it up on my personal Facebook and see if that that can work. Since I learned how to do this the other day, it makes it a little bit simpler. So let me see if I can at least try and do that and see if it'll work, because I'd like to be able to see the comments, and I know a lot of people don't have comments on this, so we'll see if this will work. I don't know if it will or not. Yeah, let's see. I think so. So yeah, we're gonna go and do live both sets, and yeah, I want to see comments, Galvin. It helps the conversation, especially when we go to talk about a big topic like this. So, for those that don't know, I spend a lot of time doing racing stuff outside of just the typical, during the season type stuff. And it's because it's more of it's such a passion for me that I really want to make sure that when I have this show on, when we have stickers and scuffs, when we do interviews, that we know kind of not just how a driver did, but the actual statistics and the facts behind it. And that's one of those big things that's really important to me. I've mentioned before on this show that I absolutely love getting to see not just how a driver performs on the racetrack, but the actual proof with the statistics. And it took me a couple hours to put the stats together that I did. I picked a track that I think primarily focuses on their pure stocks right now. It's their best division by far in terms of numbers, and that would definitely be Flamborough Speedway and the Hogan Law and McClurkin Properties of Cambridge pure stock division. I got to see a little bit more of the juniors haulage bone stocks out at Sunset Speedway last year, so I've done the statistics for those guys as well. Unfortunately, like I said, there's some tracks that don't post their week results, and when you don't do that on the websites and you don't put it out there, racers don't have anything to sell. They need to be able to sell people on how they did, not just in the point standings, but how they do on a regular basis. So having those options where people can count and show off their statistics is extremely important. So I would encourage all the series out there, all the tracks out there. Hell, if you don't have your results, I understand it. I get it. It is a lot of work. I got time to do it. And I want to see it done. I want to see it put out there. I want to see Sauble. I want to see Full Throttle have their results out there. Count the statistics. It's when you're trying to sell a partnership to a sponsor, a company, and you don't have any proof. You don't have anything from the track or the series that shows. Tracks like Delaware, we've seen it. They post theirs and they post the full breakdown, starts, pole, heat win, that type of stuff. If you need somebody to track it all season long, I don't mind doing that. I did that for OSS last year. right? That stuff is fun to me because of statistics. It's stuff that I like to see in terms of performance week in, week out. Did this driver really have as dominant of a season as we think? Um, did they show a close championship battle all the way through? And is there proof that there really was a tough championship battle? And it's funny because you see, actually, I don't know if you can see Chester just hanging out right there. Um, but these battles year in and year out are always something we want to be able to look into. And I think that when we take a look, you guys are going to be absolutely bewildered at a division that I really think did not get enough attention. When we look at the grand scheme of what a lot of tracks got last year, and when you look at the difference in races, it's staggering. I legitimately staggering how many races that this track put on last year by eons compared to everywhere else. I would go out and say that this is the most starts that any division, any series made last year. It's nuts when you think about it. Now, the one thing that they do out at Flamborough Speedway, they do the double features, which I'm a huge proponent of. I think, especially with the amount of rainouts that you have, I don't mind that. Heats to me, I'm I've gone on this show before. I'm not the biggest heat fan. I understand setting the field, but I actually really like the way that Flamborough does it, and I get that every track and every series has their own way of doing things, but we're gonna go through the statistical report that I put together this weekend and look at the difference in just starts alone. And I want to remind you that this isn't all of the starts either. There was some invitationals. There's Frosttoberfest. I believe there may have been a rainout or two, and that isn't impacted in this list. Now, Flamborough Speedway, their mini stock division's a lot smaller. CVM's a lot smaller. They didn't have super stocks this year, and they had I guess an average count for late models. Bone stocks out at Sunset we're always averaging around the same amount. They never really dipped under 14 cars. They were averaging around 14 to, I think the max was maybe 21 on a weekly basis, not including an invitational. And then you have the regular at Delaware, the regular standard. And thank you, Gold Rush. Thank you. That's what it was, Rich. And the regular standard at Delaware is 40 plus, showing up each week, running a B main. But when you look at kind of the deeper details here, I think, sorry, excuse me while I sneeze. Yes, the championship night was a rainout, Rich. Now, there was about 3 rainouts, it looks like, for the bone stocks in Sunset, approximately. And then the final race, I don't have the correct details. I can only go off of Race Monitor right now because the statistics for that date are actually not on the website. I am trying to track those down. But let's just take a quick look in terms of the standings out at Delaware Speedway, and just take a look at, this is what I want to see tracks look at doing. And this is it. This is a full statistical report, including the car number, the points, the how far back they were, the starts, the wins, the top fives, top 10s, and heat wins. This is all extremely beneficial for people like myself, for drivers. They can use this as a selling point. They can use this in their thank you posts. They can use this about really anything that their heart desires. But when you don't have any sort of information like this, it really limits. And unfortunately, I understand that putting the point standings out there tends to be the hot topic, but I'm not going to say that the point standings aren't as important as results. But for week to week, I don't really know if I really care about how much the points change per week, but I do care about the results each week. I want to see who's showing up every week. We'll see the average count, average finish of drivers, because you can do that with results. You can actually do a full-on season review of your week-to-week statistics. Now, Grand Bend has the system that I also think is extremely useful. Grand Bend and Brighton both use this program. I believe it's an external program called My Race Pass. And what is also great about this is they do the same thing. Grand Bend has, we'll just take a quick look here. Grand Bend has an option that you can go through. You can find all the races that happened, but also if it was rained out, and that's useful. Again, that's good so we can count all of the starts. But let's just pick, let's pick a mini showdown results. It's got all where they started, where they finished, their plus minus, where they're from, the driver, and if they finished or not. It's also, what's really cool about this is each driver does have their own little bio with their statistics. I mean, you have the option as well. I believe if we go, let me just see, there was a way to go back to his. Oh yeah, so if you go up to his profile, so let's take Carter Nickel, for example, you can actually go to the info page, and it has his career highlights, most moments, hobbies, your favorites, recommendations, but then it has all the sponsors, the nickname, racing sins, occupation. This is the type of stuff that we need tracks to have. It's extremely important in getting across all this information, not just for the racers, but for the fans. And I absolutely love My Race Pass. I understand that maybe tracks don't want to, if likely you're gonna have to pay for it. I can understand not wanting that. But when I go onto other sites and we see that a lot of racers aren't included, they're missing information. And listen, I completely understand that. It is a huge undertaking to do this. But if you have an external site that has a format already put together that you don't have to code, you don't have to put in to create it in a website, I think this is well worth taking that gamble. It is really helpful for us to go back and say, hey, let's review this race because we can. The problem is I tend to use Race Monitor for a lot of stuff. And Race Monitor, as we know, can be absolutely brutal, and it isn't final. So stuff as simple as a finish from like the Autumn Colors Classic, I'd love to see where those final results are. That type of stuff I really want to see. I really want to see that stuff because then you can start to build driver profiles. You can start to build them with their statistics year to year. One thing I've noticed is a lack of champions listed on the sites for a lot of these tracks and series. Sorry, I'm totally dealing with allergy issues, guys. It's been actually pretty brutal the last couple of days with this stuff. So, yes. So, yeah, and as Calvin says, that's the problem. Tracks can barely get that to work, so we expect them to get another app to work, right? I don't know if it's more complicated or if it's worse actually, Calvin. It certainly looks like a lot of stuff is together. And my whole thing is if you've got a track photographer, you've got half the job already done. Getting pictures of the cars, getting pictures of the drivers. A lot of this stuff, you have a lot of accessible people to use. Now, I'm going to throw it like Debbie Joe. Debbie Joe has a really good habit of taking amazing, not portrait shots, but like, uh, um, the candid, I guess they're candid shots, and they're thank you, Calvin. Yes, candid. Um, and those work amazing for profile pictures. They work exactly in showcasing um, drivers' personalities, showing off a smile, getting them out when they're not posing. I always say a lot of drivers like to have the serious shot and have the serious face. But I think that there's so much that we can use photographers for. Now, I understand photographers want either they want credit or pay, and they well deserve it. You know, I've had to learn this through doing media stuff that, you know, making sure that you give credit to those that take it. And I don't have any problem giving credit. I made that mistake very much. And Debbie Joe's photos, for example, I feel like I've always got, I always can rely on Ashley McCubbin's short track musings for any angle that I need of a car, because she's able to get any she does. She gets so many different angles, and if there's any like obscure series or a series that doesn't visit often, normally it's Ashley that gets them, right? Danielle at Sunset. You have Follow Me out at Peterborough, Triple D at Varney. Sauble, typically you get Danny McKenzie up there. Delaware, Luke Durda. Debbie Joe's she kind of goes all over. And then April Wilson out at Grand Bend. You got Brandon Feeney does some out at Peterborough. And Brighton, I see him do those as well. There's a lot of really good photographers that you can lean on to try and help build profiles, build things, because I think at the end of the day, what NASCAR is doing in 2025 is they're marketing a lot on the drivers in 2025. They have released, this is news that they're focusing really on driver marketing. That's, I think, what you got to do here. We've got to do that. Now let's take a look at some of the marketing aspects, which to me is statistics. Now, it is pretty ridiculous when you think about the fact that we're going to take this look here and see. I thought that the Lift to Limited bone stocks out of Delaware Speedway, I thought that they raced a stupid amount and that they raced so much. It turns out it's only 12 races, which when you look at this statistical report of the races that were held by Flamborough's Pure Stock division, you're going to go, well, what the heck? And, well, here we go. This is not fake. This is all their schedule. So let's take a look here. Yes, there is a total of 36, I believe it is, 36 races that the racers out at Flamborough Speedway participated in this season. Now, not everybody did the full 36. We had a couple that did 34, a couple that did 30. Statistics, again, can vary because in some instances, drivers didn't actually start a feature. However, what I did choose to do was include them because they are listed in the running order. So they were there, they just didn't make it out. So ultimately their finishing order was posted still. So yes, there kind of can be some skewed starts in a way where drivers chose to not start, or they weren't unable to start a second or first feature. So that was impacted in this as well. But when we take a look at this, 36 races, and then we're going to go and switch to, we've got 12 for Delaware, 36 for, and then we go to 11. So I think there's going to be potentially up to 15 for the Sunset Pure Stocks. They had a couple of rainouts, unfortunately, though, and then a couple of invitationals, and of course Fall Velocity. So that wasn't included, but the statistics are very different when you consider how many made the full 11 starts at Sunset, and then you see how many actually did the full 36 here. It's staggering to me, and especially the fact that after a championship that really was a fantastic one between Spencer Riddell and the combination BT effort of Wade Thorne and Jillian Hills, and we didn't get to see it because the rain spoiled the finale in what was going to be a phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal battle. It's disappointing. I can't lie that we didn't get to see that finish up. And it wasn't the only championship battle. I know Chris House and Billy Schwarzenberg had a good battle going in there, and the one thing that I do think though is we have to look at this and go, all right, well, why was there so many races? Well, double features for sure, but at the end of the day, I think this comes down to more of an issue with there wasn't enough on the calendar. And so this is what was filled, and I can't lie and say that I don't love the fact that they did this. I love that we got an actual like NASCAR schedule. When you consider this, that they did a full NASCAR calendar over the racing season in Canada. I don't think many racers can say that. And you talk to Spencer Riddell, Chase Mitchell, Leo LaBarbera. I know Leo had a guest racer for him. Rick Mitchell, Chris Burrows, Fiddler and Wilms, Rachel Mitchell, Mike Hall, Megan Mitchell. They all did these 36, or at least were a part of it there at that weekend. And as Nicole says, 11 races are doable and let you have weekends. 36 is way too many. And Spencer Riddell says, yeah, it still hurts. Top 3 in late models were 7 points apart. Yeah, we're planning on doing that. And when we take a look at this, it's funny because the statistics show that Wade Thorne, who won the championship, was not by far the most dominant car last year. Very solid in terms of top 5s and top 10s. But Spencer, 35 top 10s out of 36 races last year. That is ridiculous in terms of statistic average. It is not very common. I don't even think you'll see NASCAR Cup guys that finish 35 times in the top 10 out of 36 races. Add that with 29 times in the top 10 out of 30 starts. So Spencer is right on pace with Wade Thorne. 2 wins to 3, 2 more top 5s in that time span. Chase Mitchell, 3rd in the point standings. Not too shabby either, but a considerable difference in terms of the top 5s. This is remarkable in terms of week to week. Well, so Spencer says he doesn't want to talk about it. That race and his worst finish in the season was a 12th place. Now, that's where Wade has him beat. Wade's worst finish is 15th. So Wade had a worse finish. So Spencer had all of these statistics leading his way. Just probably a minor difference. And we really could have seen a very different championship finish if, of course, we got it there. Now, on the win column, these two were not the leaders of the season when it came to wins. Actually, the leader missed the first race of the season, the first double, and that's Craig Cole in the 92. 6 wins on the season. 6 wins. Take a team car with Wilms and Fiddler. 3 wins for them. 9 wins for the Triple B racing team. And then you get to BT Racing. And BT Racing has Wade Thorne with 3. And then they go to his teammate in the 28 BT, Cam Thompson, with 5. 8 wins at Flamborough. Now, they weren't the only ones because Joe Lawrence did actually get a win later on in the year running a BT car. But a staggering 9 wins for BT, 9 wins for Triple B at Flamborough Speedway to win half the series races, half the track races in the Pure Stock division in 2024. Now, not everybody was able to make every race. One thing I want to point out to you that was very impressive and I think is extremely underrated. Now, we'll point out the guy who I actually think would have been in this championship hunt here in Gary Slamma. Now, he ran 32 of the 36 races. He had 5 wins as well. 21 top 5s. Now, why is that number important? Well, if you go up to second place, it's the same amount that Spencer Riddell had. 27, though, top 10s. So he would have probably been right around second, third, fourth with Gary Slamma in the championship if he had run maybe a couple more races. But somebody else who I really think deserves a shout out is Courtney Scott. And Courtney ran only a total of 16 races, but in those 16, she got 10 top 10 finishes, 2 top 5s, and those top 5s happened to be wins. Pretty remarkable feat, considering aside from Slamma, nobody else that visited the track was able to get to victory lane more than once. Other winners included Mark Allen, the pug who got 2 wins last year in his number 40, and Leo LaBarbera, who also got 2 wins last year. Chance Rogers also picked up his first win. Chase Mitchell got his first win in his career, but also picked it up with a second win. So heading into 2025, I don't think there's any question here that Bone Stock fans have to look at a specific track as potentially hosting one of the tightest battles for a championship that unfortunately we didn't get to see really finish. Now, in comparison to Wade Thorne, his teammate Jillian Hills really did struggle last year in her races, only having a top finish of second while driving the 6BT car. Now, she did come back out with her regular number 32 bone stock. She also actually made a couple attempts in the mini stocks as well. Very excited to see what happens in 2025 with the Hogan Law and McClurkin properties of Cambridge Flamborough Pure Stocks, because they put on such a great show. Now, I need to get some more information before we start to finish, because I've got a couple others out there. I feel like we've got a good amount of contenders in this series, in this division, that I hope they don't go anywhere, because all I see is more success from this division. Now, some other racers had some pretty good highlights. Mike Hall got himself a 4th place finish. We saw Chris Burrows get up onto the podium for the first time this season. Also, we saw Rachel Mitchell get her first ever 2nd place finish, her first ever top 5. Mac Ingram, who wasn't even running for points, got his first ever podium as well in 3rd place. Solid increase in time. Phil Givens got out here. He got 2 wins. Or he got a win, sorry. Phil Givens got one. And got back out after an injury early in the season. Definitely extremely stuffed. Doing double features makes Mike Schmidt says, doing double features makes up to 36 races, but it's 18 nights compared to 15 nights. Other tracks run heats and a feature instead of just doing 2 features. So Flamborough only raced 3 more nights than others, if I am correct. I mean, yeah, you can say that. Absolutely, Mike. It is, I think, in my opinion, it's a better night to have 2 features. I prefer it that way. I don't really like heats, as I mentioned earlier. And I like the idea that Flamborough has, because the second feature is an invert, which has, if you look at the amount of different winners they had this year, it was the right call, in my opinion. I think that's what you need. Um, I understand that people want to go and see different winners each week. I think Delaware had also a very good season in terms of different winners. Out at Delaware, they had the most wins by one driver was 4. That was the same for Sunset Speedway. I still have to do Peterborough Speedway's statistical report for their pure stocks. If Sauble has the results, if Full Throttle has results that they are willing to send me, I would gladly do a statistical report for both of theirs as well. But until those are available, I'm not going to be able to do it. But looking after the Flamborough results, we take a look at a major difference between this and Sunset's bone stock division, and you'll see there's a very different kind of field of racers here, and a lot smaller actually overall. When we take a look at the amount of different racers that made it out there on a regular basis to Flamborough Speedway, there's a lot of single event racers. Sauble, for the most part, had 10, 11 nights. Yes. So let's take a look at how Sunsets, and I haven't posted this one yet because this one's still debatable, because the last race of the season, my understanding is that the top 2 were DQ'd in tech. However, I don't have the results out on the official results on our website, so I had to go by Race Monitor, even though I know that that's not correct. But we'll go through it anyways, and that's because I can go with what I've got, right? So let's take a look. These are the juniors haulage bone stocks out at Sunset Speedway. So you look at considerable difference between Flamborough and then out here in the juniors haulage bone stocks. You can already see a major difference between the amount of racers that we have, and a couple that only made one or two starts. Hell, I didn't even have a name for this driver that raced in the first race of the season. But you can see the numbers kind of dip in terms of how many we had. You got 19 the first week, and it kind of gets smaller and smaller. And I think the most we got 15, 13, 14, and then 13 for the final week. So I mean, that's what we typically will see, is you'll see kind of a strong at the start of the season, and then it does start to dip. Now, my belief is that you're going to have a bit more. Cam mentioned attracted 15. That's where I got that. Yep. So we have the champion from last year at Sunset, Chris Allard. Now, Chris actually was extremely lucky last year to come away with the championship because he was severely injured. Actually, I want to say it was midway through the season in a motorcycle accident, and destroyed both of his legs and his ankles and his knee. And he got into the car and still raced, and actually won the Flying Frank in a photo finish with Calvin Reeser in excruciating pain, and came away with the championship. 4 wins on the season for Chris, 10 top fives in 11 starts, and didn't finish outside the top 10 the entire season long. Calvin Reeser is second in the championship, didn't get that win, and 7 top fives, 11, again, did not finish outside of the top 10 as well. Jordan Owen, unfortunately, a couple of last place finishes are close to it. 17th and 18th place finishes set him back in the championship to finish third. Josh Berry, that's the driver we're debating about that last. I believe he is credited with that win. I just need that confirmation from the track on the actual results there. And then Curtis Burnett, somebody who I think was under the radar a lot of the season, but he finishes up in the top 5 in points. And very impressive season for him, and is not going to be back. And that's the key question mark for next season with these bone stocks out at Sunset Speedways. We don't really know what is happening with who for next year, because there is a lot of change, it sounds like, on the horizon for the juniors haulage bone stocks. Aside from them, Aiden Harper, a solid season last year with 2 wins, 7 top 5s, 10 top 10s, and 10 starts. Again, these are the types of things that you want to see for statistics. Extremely interesting stuff. But in terms of full-time efforts, we had about, I think, 8 that did a full season slate. Whether we'll see that next year, I mean, that's the big question mark. I think you'll see a couple of names like maybe Chris Allard back. I'm not sure if he'll be back in that car or not. Calvin Reeser, maybe back in some capacity. I don't know if he'll be full-time. Jordan Owen, I'm not sure about him. Josh Berry, I believe, is moving on to a different division. Curtis Burnett moving on to a different division. Heard that Aiden Harper potentially heading into a new division. Ben McPherson into a new division. Steve Oakes, he's likely to be back in that 53. Austin Janet, I think he might either be back battling for the championship or will be in a new division next year. Then you got Jack Bird, no information on him. Chris Kahn, not sure about him. Carly Willman, I think you'll see her back in her familiar number 14. Jason King will be in a new division. The Booths, not sure about them. And then Brandon Burnett looking at a new division for next year. Matt Christina, I believe that car was for sale. And Mike Robinson Jr. was doing some fill-in work for him. Mike Bolson, I expect we'll see do a couple more races next year. And you got a couple more of the visiting drivers that did take some time to be out there. Calvin Reister says, invert the field or start the points leader at the back and go from there. Last in points start at the front. I like that idea. Now, I mean, Calvin, I actually think that Flamborough's way that they do it is great. Inverting the last finishing order. And I believe it's the last finishing order as long as they're on the lead lap. It adds a whole other playing field. And as we've seen at Sunset Speedway, there's a lot of different ways that racers can find their way around. And I'm just very interested to see who's going to be joining this division next year. If there's going to be less or more cars. There's a lot of just big question marks heading into 2025 about this division especially. I think other divisions, I think mini stocks, I think hot rods, modifieds, they'll all probably stay around the same from what we've seen. But this division especially, with the way that bone stocks, I mean, if you ask Rich Schwarzenberg, who does the amazing promotion at Only Fours, so make sure you follow them. Only Fours on Facebook. They got a great video coming out for the best drivers across Ontario in the bone stocks, so make sure you stay aware for that. But Rich, I think if you ask him, these guys are on the way up. Bone stock racing is the show. It's been a show for a long time. I think some people poo-poo it, and that doesn't need it. It doesn't deserve it because, frankly, the racing is fantastic. Now, I want to see a little bit more tracks working together and try and get some interdivisional or inter-track battles. That is what we need, especially when it comes to those guys that, Delaware doesn't need any help. Like they're solid in their car counts. They're solid in the amount of cars and racers they're going to have every week. It's these other tracks. Sauble's growing big. You can see it right now. Their counts potentially are going to be doubled or even tripled as to what they saw last year on a weekly basis. The Epic Racer where Bone Stock's out there. Full Throttle's contention is always going to be competitive. They were really solid. I think they were up 24-25. Rich, correct me if I'm wrong there. Close to even needing B mains, which potentially they could hit this year. Peterborough, I think Peterborough's also got some really good strength there in 17 to 18 cars. And then you have, of course, Flamborough's, which weekly we're putting up 20 cars each week. I think you've got some weeks they're up to 25, 26. The big question mark is right here. And then also I would say a Graham Bend, but Graham Bend does have a limit on how many cars they can have there. But I think it doesn't do any service to Carter Nickel last year that he was only racing 3 cars. If they had a 6 to 10 car field, maybe that's a little bit more better for him. I think he's going to get a good experience in his new track for 25. But the world of bone stock racing is so much fun. It's quoted as entry level. You'll see some drivers that are entry level, but you'll also see drivers that, they can't afford anything else, or this is what they want. This is what they want to try and do. And you got guys that just the heart is huge. Absolutely huge. Full Throttle was the second largest weekly count. Flamborough and Full Throttle was very close for weekly numbers. Rich, like I said, Rich knows the information. He's the guy that we count on for all of the bone stock stuff. And I think Yeah, there you go. Back in 2016, there was 20-ish bone stocks at Grand Bend for the Bash. I can't even imagine that, Nicole. Um, for the Bash of the Beach. Uh, so it can be done. It's just a matter of people realizing that, hey, this division's cheap, but the racing is good, and it doesn't. You don't have to go out and buy a super stock first thing. You don't have to go out there and buy a late model and price yourself right out of racing. I mean, you're seeing here that you're getting a ton of racers out there. I know Chris Lawrence needs some love. I'll put it out there and I'll put it out again. Chris routinely was putting out last year, if I'm not mistaken, a total of 15 bone stocks each week across Ontario, not just at Delaware. I think he had a regular 4 or 5 out at Delaware, and he had 2 to 4 that ranged out at Flamborough. Um, he's got a car that's going to Peterborough this year that he's sold somebody. I think he'll have a couple of cars that'll travel, going to Sauble and going to Grand Bend. So that is what you got to talk about. We could talk about the Greg Duncan team, the lowball team, that are putting multiple cars out there. That's what helps. The Booth team actually out at Sunset, they had I think 3 or 4 cars that they put out there. It is extremely exciting that we have this division to look forward to, and I hope that at Frosttoberfest or at Autumn Colors we do get the best of the best. One thing we haven't gotten to see yet is a ton of all over champions coming. We got Pat Farrow last year came down to ACC, and you had Phil and Chris, but the one thing that we haven't seen um is the which I'd really like to see is a bunch of champions together. I want to see, Chris Allard, Pat Farrow, Angelo Novus, Austin Etzel, um, Matt Langford, you want Carter Nickel. I want to get all the champions together, um, and really putting on like having a race with all. I know that's a big thing, but that's I think one of those like all-star type situations, and if we can get everybody on the same rules, as Calvin's mentioned several times, get everybody working together. That's what you need. And absolutely, Rich mentions MRC 4 cars at Flamborough. Yep, the Mitchell Racing team. For Megan Rachel Chase. It's always nice to see them. They're out there all the time, weekly. And I think 25 could be very special. I really, like I said, I'm very curious to see more from what we've got here. Yeah, Frosttoberfest had Langford, Etzel, Thorne, plus Lawrence, Givens, Riddell, Slamba, Cole. Yep. I'm getting what we're missing out on is having as many champions out there as possible. If you get like 2 or 3, that's one thing, but it's the same thing with mini stocks, same thing with late models. I understand at the end of the season, not everybody wants to travel, and everybody people are done. The fact that racers from Frosttoberfest, like even Spencer Riddell, made a trip to Sunset last year, and then raced Autumn Colors. Like these guys raced over 40 times last year. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. But I think you got a lot more fun coming in 2025. We've got to talk more bone stocks, and definitely bring more conversation to the table in the coming weeks, because got more of these reports that we're going to be doing. Yeah, we went to Sauble and we sucked, but we were there. There you go, Spencer. And that's Spencer Riddell doing what you got to do, is that support the tracks. I think Sauble Speedway is going to get a bunch of love this year. I think they're doing a lot of great stuff, and I think people want to go and try their luck at the beach this year. think it's a very fun track, and a lot of people are seeing it. There'll be some more regulars, and I think that's going to help try and bring people out there. And it's going to be fun, and that's the key word. Is I think you're gonna have Rich and Only Fours on the case all season long, making sure that people are being updated about not just all sorts of other divisions, but especially the bone stocks. And he'll keep us updated with anything and everything, any news that breaks, and doing interviews across the bone stock world. And that's what we really need. More and more people covering, and we at Stickers and Scuffs and ONTrack Weekly will be doing as much as we can to cover bone stock racing as well. It is one of my favorite divisions to watch. There's lots of great racing and parity, which is what we want. Big kudos last year to a bunch of guys getting their first ever win. It's always exciting to see those, and I think there's a couple championship favorites out there. I mean, if we're talking Flamborough, Chase Mitchell looks to be on the rise. Don't know if Spencer Riddell is going to be back doing the full season out at Flamborough, but he would also be somebody that is primed for a championship run. And Craig Cole is definitely out there as well. Out at Delaware, Donovan Clark had a great season. I think Paul Fothergill's finally started to warm up into those bone stocks. He'll be really good next year. Sauble will have Pat Farrow. Savannah Finley, I think, is somebody you're going to have to watch out there. Alex Stewart, Brady Cox will be more regulars out there as well. Austin Etzel, I don't know if he's doing full-time. I know he's going hot rod racing out at in Oscar. So the openness in the bone stock division out at Full Throttle is there as well. But Dustin Johnston is definitely up there. Rich Schwarzenberg, anyone in this division not using the media platforms from Nicole, Jomo, us, Pedal Power is missing out on the media platform at this level, second to none. This is what we need. As much promotion as possible. Facebook groups, TikToks, websites, anything and everything that you can do to help racing is what we need, and to help these racers. So we got more statistical reports going to come together, and then we'll be back next week. You got a couple more episodes until 2025 for ONTrack Weekly, but you know what? My allergies were bugging us, but we stuck through. We could go longer, but I've got another show that I've got to get to and put that together for our final episode of Stickers and Scuffs for 2024. So for those that stuck around, I know there's a lot of numbers and stuff, but you got to understand that it's a lot of fun. And we'll figure it out. But I want to say thank you to everybody that participated. One of the things we absolutely love here on the show is getting to chat racing, and I think having something that we can visually look at and see how people did last year is going to continue to help. And as Brad says, to got tech really ramping up. We need tech everywhere to be ramping up. And if we can do that, that's going to make it an even better season for everybody. Hopefully we get a lot of combination races and see some new racers out there. I want to see some veterans get back into the bone stocks too. Let's not disappoint and have ourselves a great season, everybody. But that's been it for ONTrack Weekly. I'm Cam K, your host. We'll see you back for next week for another episode. We'll talk some more, probably some more bone stock races, and we'll take a look at some mini stocks as well. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight, and have yourselves a great week.